Greetings, students, and welcome to week 14. This week, we're going to explore the future of search, what the experts and scholars and futurists think is coming down the road next. So I'd like you this time, again, to bring your own reading and defending your choice. We'll discuss the choices that you've made. You'll read Markey's last chapter, which deals with her notion of the future. You'll be listening to Danny Sullivan in our Voices of Search. At the end of the week, I'm hoping, I know you will submit assignment 2, as well as your reflection and your notes. We'll also talk a little bit about how you're going to be keeping up after this course is over, and I hope that at some point in the next week or so, you'll do the university's SIRS review on our course. So our essential questions for the week are, let's think about Markey's predictions. What's right? What's missing? What do the experts see as the future of search in a larger information landscape? Markey focuses largely on databases and library subscriptions. What's going on outside? What trends are most likely to impact you as an information professional? And again, how do you plan to keep up after this course? So among Markey's forecasts is that satisficing is likely to continue. In complete information tsunami, it may be the only viable option in view of the Herculean effort, she says, that would be needed to gather all pertinent information for an in-depth query and the time to fully assimilate it. So I suspect we will see satisficing, and she talks about the difference between the casual information need, younger people and their research, and scholars and their research. But it's something to keep an eye on, especially as we're working with users and students, and perhaps we're the folks who might make the Herculean task a little less painful in guiding the people we work with towards more than satisfactory and sufficing kinds of content. This one is almost a no-brainer, changes in database interfaces. I think I can remember so many times when I come in the morning ready to teach, opening an interface and having it look entirely different from the way it looked a couple of days ago. Things are going to shift, and as she says, just when you've mastered a search system, the vendor changes its interface or search functionality. So as an information professional, you should expect disruption, shift happens, and it's really incumbent on us to be agile and to keep up with the shifts. We're going to have continued issues, as Markey predicts, disambiguating legitimate results. It will be our job to caution users about filter bubbles, about deception, and the serious need for evaluation, especially on the free web. So we're seeing content forums where freelance writers write light essays on topics that they would like us to find, where there's article or content spinning, where folks use software programs to rewrite articles so search engines will think they're different articles. And we're also seeing scraper sites where websites are being published that copy text from other websites and paste them into a new website of aggregated text. I often find some of my blog posts appear with and without attribution on a scraper site. So all in all, being suspicious is a good thing. Being skeptical is important, especially for our users. And we may need to investigate standards in web scale discovery systems to make sure there's no bias, as well as an open discovery in the Open Discovery Initiative. And we talked about privacy over several weeks, but we really need, especially on the free web, to understand that searching isn't free, that we are trading in exchange for the ability to search. We subsidize search engines and we gain personalization by trading our personal data. They know what we want and where we want to be and perhaps where we are. And they know about our buying habits, they know about our viewing habits. And so if you are concerned about these things, and these are personal choices, and choices that you will help your users, patrons, and students make, do you want to guide them to searching incognito or to using alternate search tools like DuckDuckGo? So these are things you need to think about as you work with people in a professional setting. Markey wonders if Boolean search systems will continue, whether we'll be the only ones to be using sophisticated Boolean and command line searching. I suspect command line searching, that's probably true. And will search systems continue to evolve to employ smarter searching to compensate for users who want to behave like end users and want search boxes to behave like Google? She asks, and I ask as well, can't we have both and let the user decide on how they want to search within the system? Markey wonders, will licensed databases continue? Will administrators advocate saving money by canceling subscriptions and relying on Google Scholar, Google itself, and Microsoft Academic, which largely include the tables of contents of major academic journals? She argues that libraries are not discount retailers, or the databases are not discount retailers, but the specialty shops that are needed for disciplinary research, providing users with advanced functionality, and that serious researchers would really suffer if these database licenses or subscriptions were discontinued. She wonders also, will discovery systems prevail for academic content? And I think we're seeing the need for them as a Google for academic content, because we have so many one search box fans with the prevalence of Google and Wikipedia. But while that will work for some, others might benefit from being guided back from the web scale discovery system to databases that make best sense for their subject specific or content specific needs. So once they go out of the facets of the general web discovery system, will they benefit from specific controlled vocabulary, thesauri, index browsing, and find-alike features that are resident and native in the individual databases and maybe not in the much, much larger discovery system? Of course, since 2016, pretty much everyone is concerned about the rise of fake news. We're seeing that traditional news outlets are still around, and social media is heavily used as a source of news, and the Pew studies bear that out. We are looking at how news rises as it's rated and shared with great speed in a 24/7 news cycle. We've been talking about the filter bubble and personalization, and the idea that we are not all seeing the same news appear in the same way. We're looking at algorithms that have bias, and we're looking at how commercial and commodity focus affects the way news is published. And we're seeing incredible division in our country about who watches which news. We are also seeing a wealth of new resources, which we looked at in part in evaluation module, and also in our module on teaching about search. So the hope is that we're looking at approaches that come in a variety of different directions. One, from better educating our users, patrons, and community, and another in terms of most of our major social media outlets considering strategies for improving truth in terms of what they deliver. Markey offers a functionality wish list, and I'd love for you to take a look at that in the module this week, and we're going to have a discussion on what you think is most important. She suggests that a lot of the work that we've been doing in terms of understanding what goes on in the hood should be automatic for the end user. For instance, automatic facet detection in an extended Boolean system, improving relevance with automatic synonym detection, clustering. You've seen these features in a number of different databases. Within the databases, perhaps it should happen more in discovery systems. Improved controlled vocabulary tools connected to assistants that might pop up automatically and contextually. Improved database selection tools beyond discovery. How might users better understand that there is a killer database for them that they might not be recognizing? She suggests that perhaps source evaluation should happen on a more automatic or a supported way. Intelligence stemming in Boolean so that we don't need to worry so much about truncation, and much of that is automatic in web search. An automatic technical reader to detect relevance. You saw some prototypes of that use artificial intelligence. JSTOR was one example. More present online help that pops up when the user needs it, and the ability to turn off and on customization. I'd like to know what you think about Markey's functionality wish list. Also this week, we want to talk about what else is coming. What is going to happen with search? Here are a few things that I've been reading about and adding to our playlist. You'll have an opportunity to share what you think is going to be the most important thing to keep an eye on as we look at the future of search. This week, I'll also ask you to take a look at Dan Russell's predictions. He bases his predictions on 5 truths that you will have noticed that he talked about throughout the chapters of the book and his challenges in the joy of search. He believes that the future of search will be more spoken, will be based more on artificial intelligence, will focus more on question answering, will be more social, will offer more assistance or support, and will continue to grow in content and kind, and also continue to splinter to be more focused on type of search. I think we're going to have a combination of interventions. I hope that librarians are going to intervene in making the user a little bit more aware of their search options, both in terms of places to search that are splintering, as we've noticed in Markey and also in Russell, but also strategies for using search and refining search that may be a little bit hidden for them. In fact, among those things we looked at Google Talks to Books, which uses AI to drive a kind of librarian service where a librarian would in the past say, I know exactly what book is going to be discussing that, and in which you can get into that conversation. So I think we'll see much more in terms of AI. We'll see more connection. So when somebody starts outside of the paywall, outside of the library subscription databases, Gale is now using a tool called CASA, which is Campus Activated Subscription Access. So if somebody is searching for something that appears in JSTOR or something, or EBSCO or Gale, it's not just Gale, of course, it's the other databases, they'll be led back to their campus resource where they'll get the full text. And also we're going to see that they will authenticate outside of their campus subscription. And I'm hoping that we'll see this automatic authentication by more and more of the services, recognizing it in terms of just this person is a real user and this person is in this browser, which means if they are an authenticated, or if they're a user who is okay to use the system, they'll get automatically led to the resources within the paywall that they have rights to. We'll also see metadata being leveraged in more powerful ways for discovering research connections in terms of mapping articles that are similar. We saw that in the JSTOR text analyzer on a very basic level, but we're seeing this across the scientific literature community, and these are just a few of the new tools that can lead you from one article to another much more easily and actually create visual maps of the connections among articles. We're also seeing far more tricks for getting into open access content and for getting versions across the silos where things live. And we're getting pushback on the notion of whether or not we should use preprints in a time when it's really important to get scientific information quickly. We also need to make sure that information has been vetted, but how do we weigh the value of the preprint, and how do we find our way across repositories? And some of these tools allow us to make those decisions by pushing the stuff out in front of us. And so I see the two issues that we're approaching in two different buckets. It's the discovery issues. How might we unify siloed content and allow users to dig into their great depths without losing the integrity and the lovely proliferation of interfaces, data, and formats along the lines of our conversations about the beauty of discovery in terms of being able to find things and recognize cross-disciplinarity, but also, how do we not lose the finding tools across all the platforms represented in this little visual of silos? So discovery issues is one, and access issues, which we've alluded to, is another. How do we get people to the content that they need without crazy levels of authentication? And we're seeing movements to single sign-ons and federated authentication solutions. So keep an eye on those to help your patrons. And finally, in terms of wish lists, here's my wish list. And I've mentioned some of thes before, but here it is in the form of a list. So I'd like to see searches that go across these silos, that allow for multimodal search so that you can discover spoken word records about something that you may not even know that was even a search genre that existed. I worry that mobile-first and consumer-oriented approaches may be very different from the types of approaches researchers need, and I don't want to see all of those beautiful tools disappearing. I'd like to see more ADA compliance and supports for language and readers with different needs. For instance, immersive reader, which you're probably noticing in Canvas. I'd love to see that across our databases. I'd love to see algorithms understand that diversity is an issue, and we need to have the people who manage these algorithms, who build these codes, to really consider their not bringing their own biases into this. And I also want to see my data protected at a basic level, or at a level that really respects my privacy, that librarians can live with, and according to our own principles. And my wish list part 2 has to do with discovery. Like Markey and like Russell, I'd like to see more predictive search, a proactive search that understands, let's say search as a shopping experience, understands who I am without disregarding my privacy. To have a conversation that is multi-level. We're seeing this happen with our digital assistants. Can it recognize the type of research I'm doing without losing my privacy, understanding the iterative nature of the research process? Can we see more, and we're seeing the beginning of database and journal and resource recommender systems. Can facets, as Markey suggests, be automatically detective? Can we have, like the children's databases, more clear and also attractive identifiers of the types of containers and the types of articles we're looking at? As we saw before with some of those new tools for scholarship, can we see within the tools we're already using connections, who's citing whom, so that we can see the conversation that the scholarship we're looking at really engages in? I'd love for abstracts to be more clear. They're often written by the article authors and not necessarily as friendly as they might be. I'd love to see, this is a dream, but I'd love to see them sketch noted or diagrammed in some way. Can AI do better bentos, bucketing my results and my browsing options? And I'd love to see, like we see in regular Google, I'd love to see a knowledge graph written, created for my scholar searches that is not just based on answers, but also talks about that scholarship conversation that we're talking about. And I'd love to see more like we see in Gale and some of the search engines, graphs that visualize my research query in tiles and wheels and the like. And what is, of course, what should be included in your own search futures playlist. So you're going to be sharing that in the forum this week. What most excites you about the future of search? And then most importantly, I want to know, what is your plan for keeping up? This semester, we've looked at current awareness, we've looked at weekly search news, you've been keeping an eye on databases, we've been looking at what's happening in the world of search thematically. I want to know what your strategies are, because if you're going to be an information professional, you have to be more kept up than the rest of the folks out there. So we'll be talking about your plan as well. So to sum up, this week we're talking about our forecast for subscription databases and their users. We'll be looking at my playlist, and you will be creating your own playlist and thinking about your strategies for keeping up. Next time, it's our last week together, and we'll be having a wrap-up. You're going to evaluate each other's or offer feedback on assignment 2. And for your reflection, this time you're going to be drawing or creating some kind of image, a metaphor for what does a search landscape look like. I invite you to also consider doing it as a me.